That's a good question. Well, I'm from Portland, Oregon. My parents are both from Southern Vietnam, and my dad used to tell me stories all the time about how he and his family would live in Vietnam, how they immigrated from Vietnam separately to Portland, Oregon. Um, and I have a lot of family that have come over from Vietnam to the United States in different ways. So that's my family history. I'm living in Duluth, Minnesota, though, which is a lot different than it's a lot different than Portland, Oregon. Yeah. Have you been? That's cool. How did you how did you go from Colorado to Kansas? Oh, gotcha. Where in Colorado did you live? I went to Colorado for the first time last year. My girlfriend, her brother and his wife recently had a baby. And so we were in Fort Collins for like a week. And Fort Collins is so beautiful. It's so gorgeous. Oh, cool. Where's your family from? Oh, cool. That's sweet. Really? So my dad told me that yeah, it was my dad and my mom that immigrated to Portland. My dad immigrated in I want to say in like 1980, he said that after like the U.S. left Vietnam in 1975, um, there was a whole lot of turmoil going on. And so I guess when he turned 21, he told me that he left in the middle of the night, got on a boat, and I can't remember which country they went to, but he he might have said that he went to like a refugee camp in Malaysia, where he said that he just hung out in like a camp playing soccer like all day for like 8 months. And then I think he was sponsored through, I think he said Malaysia. And then I think he was sponsored through like a Catholic charity, and then he got to Portland. And then I'm not terribly sure on the specifics of how my mom immigrated, but she did something similar, I believe. And then if you've heard the term boat people, that's where that comes from. My parents are both boat people because they immigrated through boats. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting though. My parents, they didn't meet until they both of them moved to Portland. And I guess they met through my mom's uncle. Um, yeah, I guess they grew up in the same village. When I went to Vietnam, when I was like 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever, my grandparents on both of my mom and my dad's side had farms in the same village. They were what, like it was a 10-minute walk away on like the same river. It was so interesting. Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. I guess so. It's quite the story, I think. Yeah, I speak Vietnamese and English. Um, and Vietnamese is kind of weird. It's a lot different than English in that it's tonal. Whenever I try to like describe something to like my girlfriend, like I'll have to tell her with like my hands how I want her tone to go, like whether I want it to like go up, whether I want it to go down, whether I want it to like be really sudden. It's um in Vietnamese school in kindergarten, we had I was in a class of there's got to there I think there were like over 100 kids, but there were 5 teachers that showed the different tones with their hands. There were 5 teachers, and so when they were teaching the tones, all of them would make like they would do the tones with their hands. I think so. There's like a tone that goes uh it's called like suck, and you'd make like this motion, and then there's one that goes like this way, and there's one that looks like a question mark, there's one that looks like a squiggly line, and then there's one that's like a period that's like underneath. And I think that one's my favorite because every time that the teacher would say like that tone, it would punch the air, and that made a huge impression on my kindergarten brain. Yeah, Vietnamese is weird. I don't know. So my girlfriend is white, so I speak English with her. But whenever I'm talking to my family, like my grandma will call, I'll speak Vietnamese to her. My uncle who calls, we'll switch between like English and Vietnamese. Sometimes I'll mix the two, which is like a very American Vietnamese thing to do. Yeah. What does the mixing look like? What words? What what does the mixing look like of like ASL and English? I'm very curious. Yeah. Oh, interesting. That's cool. So I cook Vietnamese food all the time. I I don't know if you've heard of like pho, but isn't it good?
It's really good. Your okay, one more question. Your
Yeah,
girlfriend is white and she speaks English.
right.
Is she learning Vietnamese? Is she trying to communicate with you?
I try to teach her words here and there. I actually had an idea where I would get a label maker and then write the words for whatever object is in the house in Vietnamese. It's kind of hard though to put the different tones on. Um, so Vietnamese is very similar too, because the different words are made up of like compound words. So like, so like say like, um, oh my God, I'm blanking. Um, yeah, you'll just take, oh Jesus. Well, yeah, so um, kind of like I was just thinking, like, so let me explain more. Vietnamese words are one syllable each, but you'll take different syllables and you'll like put them together to make, like more complicated meaning words, So like what you were saying about running, um, like like the word for running in Vietnamese just means like run. Um, but if you so like but you can like put it together with like other words to make it mean to give it more nuance. So like my dad will say he'll say a phrase he'll like ask me to go on runs, like more leisure like casual runs, and he'll like put like the word for running with the word for walking together to sort of like say like, oh, I want to go for a run, but like, a casual run. Um, yeah, and then there's like another word for like you can put like running with I think there's like a compete or like yeah, it's like a contest to say like, oh, do you want to like race against each other? I've never thought about how to explain this in words before.